Hello, and welcome to SPC Talks podcast. I'm Debbie Slaver, Sales and Marketing Director for SPCTEK, and today we're excited to be talking to Nick McConney, founder of GECA. We'll be diving into a crucial topic, the importance of Amazon account health for sellers. Stay tuned to discover why maintaining your Amazon account health is essential. After all, if you don't prioritize it, why should Amazon? Hi, Nick. Thanks for joining us.
Hey Debbie, how are you doing?
Very good. I'm glad you're here to ask me a few questions.
Yeah, I'm glad too. Um, I'm glad that we are having this discussion because I think one of the biggest um, neglect people do on their Amazon account is their health, and they don't find they're so focused on sales that sometimes they don't look at the account health part of it. So I'm glad
Mm,
we're having that discussion. And then account health is something like your health. You know, you can
yeah.
neglect it, and then it catches up with you one day, and then you're like, all of a sudden, what happened? So,
Yeah, when you have that heart
yeah,
attack, right?
yeah, I keep telling you, right? So, you know, the day that Amazon sends you that email, you're like, what? What happened? You know? So, I've gotten a lot of those emails, and that's one of the reasons that about kind of creating a company that focuses on the challenges in regards to account health. So the first question I have for you is what are good strategies to maintain a healthy Amazon account?
Well, Nick, I think you started off the conversation by saying, sometimes people think that an Amazon seller account is just all about sales. And really, there's a lot of things that go into the sales portion of it. Amazon has these algorithms that can help you determine whether or not you have the buy box or how you show up on the page, how high you show up on the page. And all of those algorithms have something to do with your account health. So we recommend that you get regular monthly account health checks. And there is an account health dashboard on your Seller Central. So you just need to go in the back. I actually would recommend for most people that they do that like every day because they need to understand their performance metrics. So Amazon has several performance metrics that have to do with, let's say, customer service, product, and then also shipping performance, especially if you're fulfilled by merchant, which means you're shipping yourself. So familiarize yourself with things like order defect rates, late shipping rates, and then just policy compliance for all of your listings. Um, you know, on a product listing, you can't make a claim that is medical. You can tell about benefits, but you can't say it cures.
What do you feel like? I know a lot of the times that when I've talked to customers, and the biggest thing I feel like they kind of think that the agency that they have is looking at those warnings that Amazon keeps sending. And sometimes people think that, oh, I have somebody that manages that and they're taking action on it or something like that. And then, you know, we get a lot of customers says, well, I thought my agency was handling that, so I
Mm,
didn't worry about it, you know? So
yeah,
what do you tell those customers that has an agency that, um, that they think that it's monitoring, you know, their
yeah.
interaction?
So that's a really good question because typically your agency will tell you, especially if let's say you're doing Amazon PPC, they'll tell you your take-hos and they'll tell you all of that type of stuff. And they may give you regular monthly reports, but you really need to have an agency who will include your account health information in there, your ratings. For instance, there are certain percentages of that Amazon has, like you can only be below 1% on A to Z claims. And if you have an agency and they're not reporting that type of stuff to you, they may be neglecting the account health. It's SPC, it's kind of our expertise. That's why we get so many people who have ASIN reinstatements or account reinstatements that come to us is because we really understand that you've got to take care of those items.
And I know that, and I know I want you to talk about a little bit about like there's agencies that even though they are the front face of the customer, we still handle their account health part of it.
Okay, clarify that a little bit for me.
So there's companies that out there they're marketing their services, be it PPC and all that stuff, but we are the one that are handling the account health part for them. So they don't even know that they're using us in the back end because we're
Oh,
helping them with their account health. Yeah.
yeah, there's agencies who like to monitor what's going on with your advertising, but they understand. I think almost every agency understands how vitally important your Amazon marketplace health is, your account health is. And so we have some agencies that will use us just to monitor the account health while they go ahead and take care of whatever else they're being paid to take care of because like I said, that's kind of our expertise.
When you talk about customer experience in terms of account health, what do you think are the most important points on that?
Yeah, so customer service, Amazon is very focused on the customer's experience. And so you want to make sure that if a customer gets in touch with you, that you're responding very quickly. I think the thing that surprises me the most sometimes is how many people don't respond. And it's like you said, if you don't go to a doctor, it doesn't make your health any better. If you don't respond, it doesn't go away. You know, if a customer is reaching out to you because they have dissatisfaction over something, it really is up to you to build that customer loyalty through support.
So I know in when we look at account health, we look at it as a holistic approach from the
Mhm.
experience to the making sure that being proactive on the part of when we even when we do packaging, putting the cards in there that tells the customer to contact us before they contact Amazon and things like that, so we can make sure
Mm,
that we can take care of that issue. So in the holistic
yeah.
approach, when you look at it, account health, it not only talks about the initial phases of just monitoring your account, but being proactive on how to resolve the issues before they get. And a lot of times, you will. Do you feel like when you get a customer review, a customer gives a review because it's hard to for customers to get a review from a customer if you have a positive experience. Everybody,
Yeah.
is very quick to respond to something that wasn't according to. So how do you handle something like that? Like because you're trying to exceed customer expectation, right?
Mhm.
So how do you handle that part?
Well, I think that's the thing that you have to know is that Amazon does have a method to handle all of that type of stuff. That's typically an A to Z claim. And so, again, the first thing we want to look at is we want to gather up all the facts. We want to know for sure what's going on. We actually do an assessment for anybody who comes in to our agency, whether it be for advertising or for account health or for anything. We actually do an assessment first because we want to fully understand. We think of your account health as being very foundational. If you set the foundation right, then the house isn't going to fall over. But if we don't look at, what kind of ground we're building on, then it could tumble. So they have an appeal process. If you can show, and that's the other thing, you want to make sure you've got very clear documentation. Do you have emails? Always recommend doing emails so that you have it in writing rather than saying, I spoke to him and this is what we said, blah, 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 because you have no proof of that unless you are in a state where they allow you to record the phone calls. We just tell you that once you receive a warning, review the notification to just identify, what is it about? Is it about the product? Is it about the time of shipping? Is it, what was the reason? And then look at yourself first. Look at your own policies and stuff. Do you have a good product? Okay. Was there something that happened, a hurricane maybe that delayed the shipping? That type of stuff, and then respond. address the issue with your customer, um, and just continue to respond every time they respond back to you. I think sometimes people get really worried that they'll be taken advantage of. And the truth actually is that, yeah, there's a few. There's a 1%, less than 1% of the people out there will take advantage of you. Most people who contact you have a legitimate reason. And if you would just put on their shoes, you can kind of understand why they're contacting you. So resolve the issue. Um, you know, if Amazon, like if Amazon needs, let's say that Amazon, it gets reported to Amazon and they need to have some kind of a certification or a letter of authorization or something like that, um, make sure that you get that stuff together and submit it to them. All right. But the severity of the violation could determine what actually happens to you. Um, if somebody says this isn't the same product that I purchased, you need to check and make sure what's being shipped out. You know, um, I've known of a lot of people before that had variations on their listing that put the wrong colors. So if you
Mm,
ordered a red one, you got a blue one, and if you ordered a blue one, you got a red one because they labeled them incorrectly for FBA.
mm.
Okay. And so that's the other reason why when you're using an agency and they're going through FBA with you, you want to be really careful that you're putting the right stickers on the right places. There's just so many things that can go wrong, that you need to be sure that you are checking and double checking things. You need people who are detail oriented to take a look at them. Um, but time is of the essence. Quickly address any violation that you have, just paying attention to any dates or any guidelines that Amazon may have given you.
So Debbie, I know there's a lot of people that um, all of a sudden get into trouble because maybe their shipment wasn't, like you said, the labeling was wrong, right? Now
Mhm.
you got, if you sold within a month, you sold, let's say, 100 product, and you got 30 people complaining that your product wasn't, or you got returned. So now all of a sudden your ODR rate and all these other rates, right,
Yeah.
are going. And at that time, if you don't have a agency in place that does account health, now you're trying to solve the problem of fixing the inventory, of course,
Hmm.
but you have
Yeah.
nobody that's making sure that you're not creating more issues. So how important it is to get an agency when your account is healthy versus waiting for trouble to find you and then trying to look for somebody. And then you have all these agencies out there that talk about, oh yeah, yeah, we can do all this stuff, and we've gone through that, right?
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
finding somebody that is trustworthy, it's out there, understand what needs to happen and execute on it on an urgency basis and not just wait for it. So can you talk a little bit about how important for it's like getting a doctor before you have a disease, like, making sure that you're
Yeah.
healthier, you're working out, you're doing all the right things. Like, when you need a doctor, then it's kind of, I feel like it's so talk a little bit about more about that.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about the fact that there are really three areas that we consider to be the main areas for account health, and it's customer service, it's product, and then it's shipping, just like you said. So there's an on time, and the thing that's interesting about the shipping when you come to the account health is that Amazon's very specific about what they want. They want an on time delivery rate of at least 97%, okay? Because they want to be a reliable marketplace. So they set that bar pretty high. Your late shipment rate, or your LSR that we call it, only under 4% can arrive late. Okay. Because that is, again, about reliability, efficiency. And then the valid tracking rate. If you are shipping yourself, there are a lot of people who get in trouble for this. You must make sure that you download the shipment with a valid tracking rate. If you type in one number wrong, okay, because you want your customer to be able to see transparency. Where is that coming from? And watch it as it is. So there are many key metrics when it comes to shipping. And that's why a lot of people go with the Amazon FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon. But if you're new and you don't have the volume yet to be paying out all of those additional Amazon fees, people might choose to do Fulfillment by Merchant. Just be aware that you've got to make sure that you're shipping on time and that you've got your valid tracking rate downloaded and stuff like that. Shipping becomes a very important part of your account health. And a lot of times there are agencies that don't give that very much um, credence. They just don't weigh it heavily enough. But when you look at it and you see that Amazon has metrics there for you, if you're turning a high volume, 97% of your orders arriving on time, you might never get affected, right? But if you're only selling 10 a month, even if you're selling 97, let's say that you're selling 100 a month, that means only 3 of those can be shipped outside of the on-time delivery, okay? It means only 5 of those can be without valid tracking numbers. So then you see it becomes even more important. If you have 10, it's really important. So the number that you have, the number of, um, you know, fulfillment items that you're shipping really can affect your health if you're not, again, paying attention to details.
Your Amazon as well as your physical health, because once you get Amazon closing your account, it hurts you,
Yes.
mentally as well.
You
So
mentioned
one
those
more.
emails. You mentioned those
Oh yeah,
emails that you get.
I've
And
yeah,
when
and
you get one of those that says, your account is in, real trouble, it
right,
like can send you into cardiac because you're like, what's going on? I haven't done anything
yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
But your order defect rate is not just about the product, it's also the number of cancellations, returns, and late shipments that come in. So there's several things that are impacting that order defect rate. If you know you've got a cheap product, then you need to find a different product, right? If it's the product just isn't lasting. But again, that's why you want to find out what is the root cause. What's really the problem? Okay, the problem isn't just that these are arriving late. The problem is that they're breaking within 1 week of having them. Then you need to look at whether or not you want to have those to sell.
So they're basically, when you talk about Amazon sellers, tell me about different kinds of Amazon sellers.
3 types of sellers, maybe 4. There's the wholesale person and arbitrage. Sometimes the people who say they're wholesale are really arbitrage customers. So this is somebody who is reselling a product. If it's generic and they're reselling it, it's typically considered wholesale. But if it's got a brand on it, let's say it's Tide detergent, and you get a bunch really cheap, someplace that you're at, and so you buy them up and now you want to sell them on Amazon, you may not have the authorization to sell on Amazon if you want to use their photos, their brand names, their, you know, um, anything else that would be protected. And so then there's those people who sell white label. That's the person that has their own company, their own label, and everything they sell is under that label. So that's a private label. So you have wholesale, arbitrage, private label.
Okay. And I know they all have different issues with compliance when it
Mm,
comes to account health, right? So what are the
mhm.
most common compliance issues that each of these different sellers have?
Well, for arbitrage, it's really easy. For arbitrage, it's typically they don't have a letter of authorization. So Amazon has what they call a transparency program. They work with some of the large brands and they give that brand a code, okay? And that brand can let whoever they want sell their product, But if they're going to sell it on Amazon, they have to sell it by putting that code on the back end when they're making the product description and stuff. If you don't have that code, at some point, the little AI bots that are in the back of Amazon that are looking at all of these billions of products will see they've got a brand name there, but they don't have a transparency code. They'll probably contact you and say you need a letter of authorization in order to sell these. Okay. And basically, that's the brand just trying to protect their own patents and copyrights and all of that type of stuff because they don't know whether you're selling real or fake merchandise, you know. And so, for instance, if you want to sell a Nike tennis shoe, you have to have a letter of authorization from Nike saying you can sell that tennis shoe with their name on it and that you can reuse the photographs that you might find online. Um, or they'll give you a pack of photos. Here, if you're a legitimate seller of that product, the supplier should always be able to give you photographs and the copyrights to put those photographs online.
What about the so that's the arbitrage customer. What is the most
Yeah.
like there's a lot of customers that are arbitrage. What is their most common violation that they're doing?
Yeah, inauthentic or product is typically the number one item because the brand is telling Amazon we haven't given them permission. And so then Amazon will come to you and say, we need to see the invoices from where you purchased this, or we need to see a letter of authorization. So a lot of manufacturers will have separate distributors that actually have the rights to distribute their product. And if that's one of the sellers or suppliers that you've used for your product, but like I said, if you went into Walmart or Walgreens and you bought them on sale and then you just decided to list them on Amazon, you're probably going to get caught for inauthentic product because you can't prove the product is real. And you can say, well, I've got a receipt from Walmart that proves that it's real, but there's a chain of custody kind of like, if you think about it from like let's say, a true crime type thing. Uh if you say that you have permission to and you're using their photos online, you have permission, then you have to be able to show that letter of authorization.
Okay. And so the that's the compliance part from the arbitrage. And I'm assuming the mostly the wholesalers and the brand don't face similar issues. But I know we had a customer who owned his own brand, and then somebody was selling, he had given somebody permission to sell their brand, and his product or his account got closed. Do you want to talk a
Yes.
little bit
So
about that? That's a different, that's a very, uh,
if
because we go
this is
through
the
so many
same
different
one I'm
things,
talking
it's
about,
just, yeah, we just see so many different variation on account held that nobody else sees, and they don't realize it until it's too late.
yeah, so in this particular instance, the brand owner had allowed somebody in Canada to actually sell the brand in Canada, but not in the US because the brand owner was selling himself in the US. He just didn't want to mess with Canada, right? Well, uh, because it was like two different situations. One you've got approval, one you don't have approval, right? The brand got their account shut down rather than the Canadian who was selling it with their shutdown. So of course they have to go through and prove that they have the trademarks, the copyrights, and all of that type of stuff. So that's why documentation can be so important. Nick, I'll give you an example of something else that we had a customer who would sell, I know you've probably seen these. It's like paint touch up for your car. You can buy the actual paint color of your car. Now, he had like 3,000 SKUs because he was selling paint that touched up Fords and Toyotas and Chrysler and everything you can think about, right? Well, instead, in his listing, he listed it as uh, Ford paint number, whatever, with the, instead of saying compatible with Ford, he just said Ford paint. So by the time he got in touch with us, he had over 100 ASINs that had been deactivated because once they found one and started looking at him, it was just like it just kept going and going and going. And so um, we were able to help him relatively in, considering I think at one time he might have had as many as 300 different ASINs that got suspended, and they were all simply because of language. Because he said, instead of saying, is compatible with, they took it that he was advertising the brand name, Ford, Toyota, Chrysler, whoever it was, and he didn't have rights to say the brand name. But he did have the rights to say this color matches the same color you have on your Ford or Toyota or Chrysler, but it was a matter of language and how it was presented on the actual product. That happens all the time. Uh, Language and how you word it when it comes to a product description is so important uh, in the health and wellness field. Probably the most important area for making sure that you're careful about what kind of claims you make with your products. um, if you are claiming that you can cure cancer, you're probably getting shut down, right? Now, of course, not only did these ASINs get shut down, they were lucky with the one that had the 3,000 SKUs that they didn't get their whole account shut down. But because we were acted very quickly and we were able to get in there and start working right away on them and stuff like that, Amazon could tell. That's the other reason why we say just be quick in what you do, um, because there's trust and credibility issues. I talk about this sometimes. Think of Amazon if it was a mall and it had millions of stores in it, okay? And each store had, you know, thousands or 10,000 different SKUs, right? Then you have over a billion different products, and Amazon wants to make sure that customers always feel like it's a place that they can come and that they can buy the quality product that they would like to buy.
So, like you said, the transparency, and being proactive, like
Mhm.
as soon as something happens, taking action on it. Like, so I know there's a lot of customers that come to you guys and their account has been suspended for 6 months, and then they come and then again, they don't respond to that.
Yeah.
What do you
So,
feel about how important it is to not only just, even if you don't want to sell anymore, how important it is just to make sure that you have good standing with Amazon, because tomorrow you might change
mhm,
your mind and say, "Yeah, I want to sell now," right? So how important it
yeah,
is to get your account back on status, even though if you don't want to sell on Amazon anymore. So
not
I want you to talk
only,
about the speed of your action,
yeah,
and just talk about a little bit of how important it is to just get your account back on track, even though you decided you don't
yeah.
want to do the business anymore.
Not only is it extremely important that, you get your account reactivated, but the sooner you can get it reported. I mean, if you're going to have an agency work on it, you want to let them know right away. I mean, the day you got, because those that, if you contact us the day you got, deactivated, those are the ones that we can reactivate in a couple hours because we can get right to it, get it done, get the information, out there. Now, if you've been deactivated 6 months or a year or 2 years, or if you've been deactivated and maybe it's two accounts in two different regions of Amazon, like US and Canada or Europe and the US, those become much more difficult. Um, so it's really important that you don't procrastinate when it comes to account reinstatement, because if you do, the further it gets out, the more Amazon feels like they don't want to resolve this matter, and the harder it is for us to work on your behalf.
So the way I read it is Amazon's policies is if you don't care about your account, why should we?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a
Right?
really appropriate way to put it. Yeah.
Right. So basically Amazon's saying that if your account happens something with your account and you're not taking action, then maybe account Amazon maybe you are not giving Amazon priority. Um, so so is that would that be the right way to say that?
Yeah, I mean, again, if we think about it from Amazon's perspective, and that's what I usually try to do when I come across any type of problem, is let's put the shoes on for the other side and see how they think about it. If you just because Amazon thinks in some cases, Amazon believes that you actually have done, harm to their marketplace. You've sold inauthentic products, or they don't know unless you get in touch with them and tell them that no, 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 everything was fine. You know what I'm saying? They don't know what you know. And so that's why you have to get in touch with them and even get in touch with them, even if you know you don't have the letter of authorization or you don't have exactly what they're looking for, because you can put together a plan of action that will actually tell them, hey, I'm a good buy. I'm a good seller. I'm a good business person. I just got caught in the middle of something that was wrong.
Amazon constantly is updating their policies according to the laws or whatever, maybe brand or maybe the laws change or something like that. So when you're listing the product, like you mentioned, it's important how you list the product.
Yeah.
But what happens when you list the product and 3 months later Amazon changes their policy and you are now out of compliance with the new policy? Who, like, how do you
Yeah.
make sure that you keep up with that?
Well, so the Amazon marketplace is constantly changing. Amazon has to keep up with everything that's going on. And sometimes, as a business owner or even as the seller on the account, it's difficult for you. Maybe it's not your full time job. So that's why using an agency sometime, because an agency will keep themselves current on any changes that Amazon may make, and they may recommend that you make changes to your product based upon some of the newest changes that they've seen come out from Amazon. But it is extremely important that you are paying attention to what kind of changes. Amazon is a constantly changing environment, and you need to be aware of the changes that are being made. Um, those might be found in the Seller Central. They could be in a seller forum, or maybe an email that you get from Amazon that you're a little uncertain exactly what they're saying. Reach out to somebody and find out exactly what they're saying, if it affects you or not.
So would you equate that to driving on a highway and the speed changes every time? You can't just put it on one
Mm,
speed and just leave it alone. Say, I'm cruise control. It's 75 miles per hour, right? I don't need to
yeah, when
worry
you go
about it,
through
right?
when you go through those little towns, they'll catch you. We hope you enjoyed the discussion today. And if you have any questions, feel free to just drop them in the comments section below. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button to stay updated on our latest episodes.